Rob was part of each audition, and he was living with her and soon to marry her, and he would obviously do better with her, wanting her to get the job. I mean, was I really the funniest one in the room when we were doing the improvs for all the suits?
After Rob Reiner and his wife passed away, Hollywood didn't just mourn, it exploded with tributes, whispers, and wild theories, each one digging for the truth. Behind all that noise, only one person really knew what was going on: Sally Struthers. She wasn't just his co-star from All in the Family, she was his confidant, the one he trusted when the cameras stopped rolling. That's why when the internet flooded with rumors, she came forward to stop it all cold. What she revealed, it sent chills down everyone's spine, and strangely enough, it lines up with what Tom Cruise himself has quietly confirmed, making this story way darker than anyone expected. Sally hadn't planned on talking to the press at all. She showed up alone, no publicist, no notes, nothing. When a reporter gently asked how she was holding up, she froze for a moment, then whispered, "You don't know what he was living through." The air went still. Then she lifted her head and said, "We failed him." That one line shattered the entire story people thought they knew. Her friendship with Rob stretched over 50 years, a real lifelong bond. They talked constantly, sometimes until sunrise. But in those last few months, something changed. Rob started calling her after midnight, saying almost nothing. When she finally asked what was wrong, he snapped, "I can't talk long, he listens." Then he hung up. That single phrase, "he listens," turned everything upside down. Just 3 weeks before he died, Sally met him for lunch in Santa Monica. She said he got there early, chose a corner seat, and wouldn't let anyone sit behind him. When his phone buzzed, he jumped so hard he knocked over his water. Sally tried to lighten the mood and laughed, asking, "Who's got you this scared?" But Rob didn't smile, not even once. Rob leaned in close and whispered, "If I say it out loud, it becomes real." His voice shook like he already knew something terrible was coming. Then he looked her straight in the eye and said, "Promise me, if something happens you'll tell the truth." That single promise haunted Sally for months, and it's what finally pushed her to break her silence. What she revealed after that flipped the entire story on its head. According to Sally, the house changed before Rob did. The Brentwood home had always been full of noise, dinners that went late, friends arguing politics over wine, people just walking in like family. But suddenly, all that stopped. No more surprise visits. No more laughter echoing through the halls. Rob started demanding advance notice from everyone, even his closest friends. When Sally asked why, he shot back, "I need to know who's coming. I need time." The way he said it sent a chill down her spine. It didn't sound like a host setting boundaries, it sounded like a man preparing for danger. Sally remembered stepping inside one afternoon and feeling the tension instantly. Every single blind was drawn, even though the sun was still blazing outside. When she reached to open one, Rob grabbed her wrist and whispered, "Please don't." That's when she realized something inside that house felt wrong. Even Michelle in the kitchen spoke in a hushed tone, like the walls themselves could hear every word. Then came the shouting. Sally overheard Nick upstairs, yelling about money, accusing his parents of cutting him off. Rob's voice trembled as he said, "Lower your voice." But Nick snapped back, "Or what, you'll call the cops on your own son." The argument shook the house. After that, the signs became impossible to ignore. Rob showed up to a summer charity event in a long-sleeved shirt in August. Something was being hidden, and Sally knew it wasn't just bruises or secrets, it was fear. When a colleague joked about the scorching weather, Rob forced a weak grin and muttered, "Doctor's orders." But that fake smile couldn't hide what was really going on. Just a few days later, Sally noticed bruises near his wristwatch, small but dark, like he'd tried to cover them up. When she asked what happened, he blurted out too fast, "I'm clumsy now." His hands trembled as he spoke, his voice barely steady. It wasn't just nerves, it was fear. Then Michelle quietly confessed something that made Sally's stomach drop. She'd started locking her bedroom door at night. "I hate that sound," Michelle whispered. Footsteps in the hallway. Those words chilled Sally to the bone. The Reiner mansion, once a symbol of success and power, had become a cage. The gates that once kept the world out now seemed to trap fear within, sealing it tight. And then came the moment that changed everything. Sally said that Tom Cruise had gone to visit the Reiner home last November, pretending it was just about a future project. But what he walked into wasn't a business talk, it was pure chaos. Voices were raised, echoing through the halls. Michelle was crying and Nick was pacing the floor, furious, demanding access to money he said had been locked away. Cruise reportedly stepped in between them, trying to calm things down, but Nick snapped, "You don't get to control me anymore." The room went completely silent. Later, Cruz described Nick's expression to a close friend, saying, "His eyes were empty, no hesitation, no shame. It was chilling, like something inside him had completely shut off." That same afternoon, Cruz pulled Rob outside, away from the tension and the shouting. He didn't hold back. His voice was firm, his words cutting through the fear. "You are in danger here," he told him. "This isn't manageable anymore. You need distance. Tonight if possible," Cruz told him firmly. But Rob just shook his head, his face pale, hands trembling. "He's sick," he said softly. "If I turn my back now, I lose him forever." His voice cracked. It wasn't just fear, it was heartbreak. Then Cruz made an offer no one else would have dared to refuse. He said he'd cover everything. An elite rehabilitation facility overseas, fully secured, fully monitored. "I'll handle everything," Cruz insisted, trying to save him from the storm that was already closing in. But Rob refused. He looked down and said quietly, "If I force him, he'll never forgive me." That one sentence shattered Sally when she later heard it. Rob still believed love and forgiveness could reach places where fear had already taken root. It was like he was clinging to hope while standing on quicksand. In the weeks after that tense meeting, Cruz didn't back off. He kept reaching out, urging Rob to reconsider. Texts between them showed growing urgency. One from Cruz read, "Please take this seriously." But Rob's replies got shorter each time. "We are managing. It's calmer now. He promised me." Every message felt like a man trying to convince himself things weren't spiraling out of control. Then came the final night. The pattern didn't break. Rob didn't call the police. Instead, he reached out to a private security firm, asking for someone to come help calm things down. According to the call logs, he completely downplayed what was really happening. He never said he was scared. He never mentioned danger. And he never once said lives were at risk. Sally later said through tears that this decision sealed everything. He was trying to protect his son from consequences, she said. When Tom Cruise reportedly learned about the deaths, he collapsed into silence, unable to believe what he'd tried to stop had actually come true. Later, Cruise said one line that still haunts everyone connected to this story. "I warned him, and he chose love." That single sentence became the moment everything could have changed, but didn't. And what came next was even more devastating. Because according to Sally Struthers, this wasn't just about one man's tragedy. It was about an entire industry's silence. Sally revealed the final piece, the one truth Hollywood has spent decades avoiding. She said the danger surrounding Rob wasn't hidden because no one saw it. It was hidden because too many people chose not to see it. Agents noticed his sudden cancellations. Lawyers saw strange money transfers. Doctors treated injuries but never asked how they happened. One by one, every silence built on the last, until the truth became untouchable. People knew something was wrong, Sally said flat out. They just didn't want to be the one who said it out loud. She shared that a longtime industry executive called her privately, warning her to stay quiet. "This will destroy everything people believe about him," the voice said coldly. Sally fired back without hesitation. "He was being destroyed while you protected an image." Her words hit like a slap, raw, furious, and true. Even after that, another so-called friend suggested softening the story, calling it a family tragedy instead of what it really was. But Sally refused to play along. "Tragedy doesn't leave fingerprints," she snapped. "Violence does." That line cut through Hollywood like a blade. When investigators later dug deeper, they found patterns that had been ignored for years. Repeated ER visits marked as accidents, money quietly funneled through third parties, and emails begging for patience instead of help. It wasn't just neglect. It was silence turned into complicity, and that silence cost lives. Sally revealed that Rob once opened up to her right after a tense legal consultation. "They told me to document everything," he said bitterly. "I told them I don't want a case, I want my son back." That one choice made from love instead of protection slammed shut the very doors that might have saved his life. It was the kind of heartbreak that comes from believing love can fix what danger has already broken. Michelle Reiner's role also came into focus, and it was nothing like the quiet bystander people imagined. She wasn't passive, she was drained. Sally shared that Michelle once asked a therapist a chilling question. Could parents be legally protected from their own adult children? The answer she got was slow, procedural, full of hesitation. Michelle reportedly sighed and said, "By the time the system moves, we'll already be gone." That line haunted Sally ever since she heard it. The most disturbing truth came after the tragedy. When police pieced together the timeline, they saw a horrifying pattern. The violence followed a deliberate cycle: apology, reassurance, pressure, escalation. Sally was adamant this wasn't random or impulsive. He knew when to be calm, she said. He knew when to wait. Investigators even uncovered messages proving the timing was calculated. Arguments would start when the house was empty, when help was least likely to arrive. But Hollywood didn't want to label it for what it was. Instead, people whispered about mental health struggles or family tension, dancing around the truth. Sally wasn't having it. If Rob were a woman, she said, her voice shaking with emotion, we wouldn't hesitate to call this what it was. Her words hit like a thunderclap, forcing everyone to face a truth the industry had spent years trying to ignore. Power, wealth, and fame don't shield anyone from abuse, and they sure don't excuse the silence that lets it happen. Sally's decision to speak out didn't rewrite Rob Reiner's story. It clarified it. His final act wasn't weakness, it was love stretched past the breaking point. He wasn't acting like a Hollywood icon or a celebrated director in those last moments. He was a father, one who still believed that patience, compassion, and love could pull someone he cared for back from the edge. But that same belief cost him everything. The industry might have a hard time accepting that truth, but Sally made it impossible to look away. Rob Reiner didn't die as some untouchable figure or a headline for gossip shows. He died as a human being, raw, real, and vulnerable. That's the truth Hollywood can't bury anymore, no matter how hard it tries. Sally Struthers shattered the silence, but heartbreakingly, it came too late to save him. What's left now isn't fame, nor myth. It's a reality check that forces everyone to look deeper at the people behind the cameras, behind the smiles, behind the image we all think we know. And as the investigation continues, one thing has become painfully clear: silence has a cost, and this time, it cost a life. In the weeks following Sally's revelation, Hollywood went eerily quiet. Studios pulled back statements, insiders avoided questions, and the press releases that did appear felt carefully polished, too careful, too safe. But behind the curtain, the story was spreading like wildfire. Former colleagues started calling journalists off the record, saying they'd seen red flags for years. One producer admitted, "We all felt something was off, but nobody wanted to be the first to say it." That confession alone cracked the illusion that Hollywood ever truly protects its own. Sally, meanwhile, refused to back down. She began turning over emails, text logs, and old voicemails to investigators, evidence she'd kept for years, waiting for someone brave enough to look. Her decision set off a ripple effect. Advocates for domestic violence reform started demanding accountability from the studios that ignored the warning signs. "This isn't just a tragedy," one advocate said, "it's a pattern." And that pattern stretched far beyond one household. Reporters soon uncovered financial records linking hush money payouts to individuals close to the Reiner family. These weren't rumors anymore, they were receipts. Sources said several high-profile names quietly reached out to Sally, asking her to let the story fade. She refused, firing back, "You've buried enough already." That single quote became a viral headline overnight, forcing the industry to confront its own complicity. Now, as new evidence continues to surface, investigators are re-examining the case with fresh eyes. What was once seen as an isolated family tragedy is now being treated as part of a much bigger story, one that may expose just how far the industry went to keep certain truths hidden. Sally's courage lit the fuse, and Hollywood can't hide from the explosion that's coming next. As the investigation deepened, the calm before the storm finally broke. Subpoenas were issued, sealed files reopened, and names that had been untouchable for years started surfacing in whispers across Los Angeles. Suddenly, everyone who once called Rob a friend had a statement ready. But their words sounded rehearsed, hollow, and far too late. What was once buried under layers of glamour and reputation was now unraveling thread by thread, and the truth was uglier than anyone expected. According to sources close to the investigation, private security footage from the Reiner home, long thought to be destroyed, had been recovered from an encrypted server overseas. The footage reportedly captured hours of interactions from those final weeks, exposing patterns that matched everything Sally had warned about. One insider described it as unwatchable, saying it confirmed every dark suspicion about what was really happening behind those closed gates. Meanwhile, public reaction exploded. Fans flooded social media with shock, anger, and heartbreak, demanding justice and transparency. Advocacy groups began calling for stronger legal protections for families in crisis, not just in Hollywood, but everywhere. Sally stayed quiet through it all, but her silence wasn't fear this time, it was focus. She was cooperating directly with investigators, determined to make sure Rob and Michelle's story didn't fade like every other scandal swept under a red carpet. Then came the biggest twist yet. Leaked emails between a major studio executive and Rob's legal team surfaced online, hinting that the studio had been aware of domestic instability months before the tragedy. That revelation sent shockwaves through the entire industry. For the first time, the system that thrived on silence was cracking open, and as one insider put it, Hollywood's mask is finally slipping, and what's underneath isn't pretty. By the 10th week of the investigation, Hollywood was on edge like never before. Every outlet was running exclusive sources say stories, but for once the gossip didn't feel glamorous, it felt grim. Major studios started hiring crisis PR teams, scrubbing old interviews, and quietly cutting ties with anyone whose name appeared in the leaked documents. You could practically feel the fear in the air. One insider described it perfectly. It's like everyone suddenly realized secrets have an expiration date and theirs just ran out. Investigators confirmed that the digital evidence from Rob's home had been verified as authentic. What they found wasn't just emotional turmoil, it was a trail of neglect and silence stretching across powerful institutions. Messages showed repeated warnings ignored, reports buried, and patterns dismissed under the label of personal matters. It wasn't a cover-up anymore, it was an entire ecosystem built to keep the truth out of sight. Sally Struthers, meanwhile, was no longer just a grieving friend. She had become a reluctant whistleblower. Her testimony prompted the creation of a new task force focusing on entertainment-related domestic cases, a first-of-its-kind effort to finally address the gap between fame and accountability. When reporters asked her why she kept going despite threats and backlash, she simply said because someone has to finish what Rob started. That single sentence became a rallying cry across social media. As the legal process moved forward, one thing became undeniable. This wasn't just Rob Reiner's tragedy anymore. It had grown into a reckoning for an industry built on image, not integrity. Hollywood's glossy facade was cracking, and through those cracks, the world was finally seeing the truth. And as Sally prepared to speak at a public hearing, one question echoed everywhere. How many more stories like this have been buried just to keep the spotlight shining? The day of the public hearing arrived, and for the first time in months, Hollywood wasn't performing, it was listening. Cameras lined the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed like bees, and a silence heavier than any red carpet pause filled the room as Sally Struthers took the stand. She didn't walk in with lawyers or handlers, she came alone, holding a single folder filled with documents she'd kept hidden for years. When she began to speak, the air itself seemed to tighten. Her testimony wasn't dramatic, it was devastating. She described the warnings ignored, the phone calls unanswered, and the countless people who could have acted but didn't. This wasn't a secret, she said, her voice shaking but fierce. It was a pattern, and everyone who looked away became part of it. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Her words hit harder than any film premiere, stripping away the glossy illusion Hollywood hides behind. Investigators followed up with new evidence, internal memos showing that several agencies had discussed potential liability if the truth ever came out. That revelation set the media ablaze. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about Rob and Michelle. It was about the entire system built to protect image over integrity. Social media erupted, demanding names, answers, justice. As Sally stepped out of the courthouse, flashing lights blinded her, but she didn't flinch. "He told me once," she said to the reporters waiting outside. "The truth doesn't scare me, silence does." Then she walked away, leaving those words to echo across every news channel and trending hashtag. For the first time in decades, Hollywood couldn't spin the story. The script had flipped, and the people behind the cameras were finally being forced to face the truth. What started as grief had become a movement, and Sally was its unstoppable voice. Weeks after the hearing, the fallout hit Hollywood like an earthquake. Major studios were named in official reports, long-protected executives were subpoenaed, and secret settlements from past cases began leaking one by one. The city that once sold dreams was suddenly drowning in receipts. What started as whispers in dim hallways had now turned into full-blown exposure, and no amount of spin could clean up the mess this time. Sally Struthers became the face of a movement she never asked to lead. Advocacy groups rallied behind her, demanding reforms and accountability across the industry. Talk shows, podcasts, and networks invited her to speak. But Sally refused the spotlight, saying this isn't about fame, it's about the people who were silenced because they trusted the wrong system. That honesty hit the public like lightning. For the first time, Hollywood wasn't being seen as glamorous, it was being seen as human. flawed, and in desperate need of change. Behind the scenes, investigators uncovered more disturbing evidence. Emails suggesting coordinated efforts to suppress certain police reports and discourage witnesses from coming forward. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't an isolated failure, it was a culture of avoidance, and the cost of that silence had been lives, careers, and families. As the reports went public, one statement from Sally cut through all the noise. If speaking truth destroys an illusion, then maybe that illusion needed to die. That quote spread across every screen in America, forcing even the most guarded studios to respond. By the end of the month, hearings were being scheduled in multiple states, and Hollywood's golden image had cracked wide open. The story that began with one man's death had turned into something much bigger. A mirror held up to an industry built on pretending nothing was wrong, until now. Months later, as the headlines began to fade, one truth still burned too bright to ignore. This wasn't just Hollywood's reckoning, it was a wake-up call for everyone. The documentaries, the podcasts, the interviews, they all traced the same line: how silence, image, and denial could turn love into danger. What once lived behind closed doors was now on every screen, every timeline, every conversation. The illusion of safety that fame promised had crumbled completely. Sally Struthers, now seen as both hero and survivor, stepped away from the cameras once more. She didn't seek applause, she sought peace. Her final public words were soft but unforgettable. "I told the truth because he couldn't anymore." That single line echoed around the world, reminding everyone that sometimes the loudest act of love is breaking the silence that protects the wrong people. Investigators closed the case with findings that would change policy across the entertainment industry. New laws were drafted, protections strengthened, and for once accountability wasn't just a headline, it was action. Yet even with change unfolding, the heartbreak lingered. People still asked, could any of this have been stopped sooner? The story of Rob and Michelle Reiner didn't end in tragedy, it ended in truth. And that truth forced Hollywood and the world watching it to finally confront the price of pretending everything's fine. Because love, when blinded by hope, can sometimes walk straight into danger. One question lingers in the shadows: how many warnings does love ignore before it becomes fatal? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more shocking updates and deep dives into Hollywood's hidden truths. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the real story is the one nobody wants to tell.